Kenyan people. So, Honorable Speaker, I support.
The Honorable James Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill. Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely important bill in terms of health. I support it because the object of this bill is to coordinate all public institutions that are involved in control of food safety and feed safety. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we actually control food and feed safety, because food is the most important social determinant of health. We are what we eat in terms of health. Mr. Speaker, food can result in direct illness from infectious diseases, communicable diseases such as typhoid, bacillary dysentery, cholera, and all sorts of the illnesses that we can have. Mr. Speaker, we can also have non-communicable diseases, which is arising from the food we eat, starting from problems of lack of vitamins, which are common things, particularly in children, to serious diseases such as diabetes, hypertension arising from obesity, strokes which are arising from having a lot of cholesterol in our system. So these are all important. Or we can have chronic illnesses, chronic poisoning in food. You can have like fishes that is actually contaminated. There have been parts of the world where you have been serious contamination of fish leading to heavy metal poisoning like mercury. And those can occur even here, seeing how our environment is being managed. So the people who then get the fish needs to do something about it. You can have acute poisoning, Mr. Speaker, from the food that you eat. We often talk about food poisoning and we think that somebody put poisoning in food. In fact, if food have some forms of bacteria, it will cause acute illnesses that actually is called food poisoning. Some, if you take milk, you can actually collapse immediately because the milk is contaminated. Some, depending on how the milk is actually prepared, people put some things, even as things as bad as melamine, to make the milk look more thick and more rich. And so this, we need to look at all those things. Mr. Speaker, you can have long-term effects depending on the type of food you eat. There are foods that are actually associated with cancers. You can have that. Things like cancer of the esophagus have been associated. Cancer of the liver have been associated with the kind of foods and the contamination in foods. And what about the feeds? Mr. Speaker, feeds that are given to animals are an important part of the food chain. It gets into the animals and we eat the animals, the animal products. Again, that is extremely important. As I said, if you have things like aflatoxin and they're in the food, you will actually get cancer of the liver. So it is important that we get this. Mr. Speaker, sometimes when food is being produced, it can be contaminated. So, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the possible ways the food can be contaminated at the time of production, when we use fertilizers, what is the effect of that? When we use pest controls, chemicals, what is the impact they have on the food that we eat? What we put in the feeds? Sometimes, Mr. Speaker, we have known that some feeds are actually, let me say, energized with steroids so that the chicken can grow faster. They pass this on to us. Mr. Speaker, during processing of foods, the storage of food, all these are actually associated with chemicals or other things that will actually make food dangerous to our health. The transportation of food, Mr. Speaker, that is also extremely important. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill because if you look at all those areas, from the production of food in the farms to the fork in our mouths, the chances of contamination are numerous. And Mr. Speaker, we then have very many institutions which are in various ministries which are actually involved in this. And this bill actually seeks to coordinate all those institutions. I think that is extremely important because as it is now, each one, KEBS is doing their own thing, KELFIS is doing their own thing, and nobody brings them together, and even the duplication that occurs with that. So this bill seeks to bring that coordination, and it actually establishes the structure, Office of the Food Safety Controller, extremely important, Mr. Speaker. It also puts in place processes for traceability. If there is food contamination from a factory, can we trace where this food actually come from? Can we trace where the food has been distributed to? Can we go to the supermarkets that have, so that you can have a recall system? If there's an outbreak, where was the food produced? Where has it been distributed to? Can we recall that food? Can we follow up the process to that factory and find out what happened wrong? Or to that farm and find out what went wrong? And Mr. Speaker, this is done through very many competent authorities. 10 of them, they actually are listed in the first schedule of this, from the ministries responsible for public health, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry responsible for fisheries, the AFA Authority, Kenya Dairy Board, Kenya Plant and Health Inspectorate, Pest Control Board, Fertilizer. All these, Mr. Speaker, actually are working independently. And during the discussion that we had with them, they are working in silos. But we live in a comprehensive manner so that the food in your house, it doesn't matter which authority is responsible for controlling which type of food. You just know that you want to know that your food is safe. So it is good to have somebody that is controlling them. So, Speaker, I support this bill again because it has put into the schedule what also needs to be, what laws need to be amended. Because if you look at this, they're actually under 13 acts of parliament. So it would be futile if we were to do this without going in and actually looking at all those 13 acts of parliament and amending them. Public Health Acts, Food Drugs and Chemical Substances Act, Dairy Industries Act, Fertilizers and Animal Feed Safety Act, Pest Control Act, Meats Act, the Standards Act, Biosafety Act, Water Act. All these things, Mr. Speaker, they all need to be coordinated. And this bill actually seeks to do that and has put in places structures that can help us do that. I only hope that when we get the office of this controller, it has even put how this person is appointed, the qualification of this office, the structure of this office. And I hope that when that takes place, this office will do what it's supposed to do. But the most important thing that we must look at, there should never be competition between this office at the various competent authorities that is going. We don't expect this office to go out and start picking food from industries and checking them. That is not their duty. Their duty is to find out, is KEBS doing what it's supposed to do? Is KELFIS doing what it's supposed to do? If not, where is the problem and what do we do? Because if it does that, it will actually cause us a lot of chaos and unnecessary competition within the system. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support.
The Honorable Nyomi Wako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important